When we're considering the situation in which we've found Regina Giunta lying behind the bus shelter on the side of the road, we need to be mindful of a number of things as we undertake our assessment. Firstly, it's a public place, so we actually need to be aware that people will be around, and someone lying on the ground will attract attention. So as a registered nurse is pulled up to help Regina, or a woman we now know to be Regina, will need to be mindful of maintaining her dignity and also maintaining her privacy. So in terms of doing our assessment, we'll have to be conscious about what we say, how we say it, whether we can be heard by other people. And if we're actually going to do any sort of physical assessment, we need to be mindful that we're actually not uncovering her and not exposing her as we undertake our assessment. It's also really important that we actually get some help. We can see from the photo that there's a house behind, so it'd be worthwhile going in there straight away and getting them to actually call an ambulance, or recognising where we can actually get some help from. Maybe we actually do our assessment, then we actually ring for an ambulance from our own phone. I think it's also really important that we understand that it's our acute assessment skills as nurses that we're going to need to be using here. We're going to need to be assessing things like her airways, her breathing, her circulation, her level of consciousness, whether or not there's actually any physical deformity, whether or not she's got any weakness, assessing her neurological function, and that will be difficult if we're wanting to do pupil reactions, bearing in mind it's 8:30 in the morning and it's probably going to be a bright sunny day. We also need to be aware that in our communication with Regina, we actually need to be giving her information about who we are and why we're there and what we're doing, but we also need to be assessing her responses to us. So we need to be mindful of the questions we're asking and make sure they're very clear, they are very focused and purposeful, and assessing her responses to them, and just checking whether or not we're actually getting the response to the question that we've actually asked. At some point, it's actually going to be really important that we contact the family and let them know what's happened, but I think the first priority is to actually make sure that Regina is safe and she is actually being cared for. So I think my priority would be getting Regina sorted out, assessed, getting her care organised, and then I'd be contacting the family and saying this is what we need to have done. It's also really important that we think about the communication that we're actually going to give to the hospital when we send Regina to the hospital. So a written letter that's clear, that contains our assessment, that gives clear information about Regina's background that we know of, and also our own contact information for the hospital to be able to contact us back and for clarification if needs be. It's also really important too that when we're doing this assessment, that we think about what are we going to tell the local doctor, because they will need to be informed about what's actually happened, as would be part of our care as a community nurse. It would also be really important we think about what information we're actually going to give to the ambulance people when we're actually ringing to request the ambulance. So it's clear, it's concise, so they actually know the situation that they're coming to. I think overall assessing Regina in this situation is about having a clear, focused assessment that's going to give us all of the information that we're actually going to need before we actually start organising too much care, so that when we start contacting ambulances, doctors, hospitals if need be, that we've got clear information to provide them with.